Zion. I was lost, but now I'm found. I'm a child of Israel. I heard the sound. You hear the sound. Please give me the strength to stand today. With my eyes towards the east, show me the way to Zion. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please don't let me fall. Give me the strength. Place my feet, Lord, guide my path. Show me the way to Zion. I opened up the book and see that the apple of your eye included me. And through the tribulation, I know I must stand for a new heaven, a new earth. Show me the way to Zion. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please don't let me fall. Give me the strength. Place my feet, guide my path. Show me the way to Zion. I feel the Spirit calling me, drawing me back home. Oh, it's happened with my family. I know it won't be long.
All right, brothers and sisters. I'm Elder Ricard, along with Elder Lawyer. We're here, elders of the Gathered of Christ Church. Shabbat Shalom. There's a lot going on right now. A lot going on. And guess what? This particular lesson falls right in alignment for moments such as this. There's a lot going on right now. You see, I'm going to say it, orchestrated riots throughout the United States. And you might think, well, the citizens right now of the earth is getting no respite, no air between scenarios going on. We jump out of COVID into riots. Coincidence?
Mm-hmm.
I think not. Okay? Don't you get swayed left or right or diverted. So I'm going to go into that at the end of this, breaking down the levels of warfare from an army manifesto. Okay? Now, this is the United States Army Manifesto, showing how to wage different types of wars for every scenario to keep the population controlled. And they need to do such operations like what we're seeing right now when you're dealing with a population of hundreds of millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that our people who don't have the knowledge of the Most High has taken the bait. The same as the other races of people out there. They have taken the bait.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you know what we say through all of this. Make sure if you're a part of our church or if you have any level of sense, you're not out there.
That's right.
Okay? Because while this whole thing is burning down and people destroying each other, ignorantly destroying each other, the Most High is going to make a way for his righteous. That's why you cannot be amongst the population where the chaos is. Mm-hmm. The chaos is the smoke that happens while the righteous prepare. Okay? Right. That's what the chaos is for. It's only the smoke because, believe it or not, while the smoke of riots is going on right now, keep in mind, Satan's government is preparing for the next phase. And it's not to be insensitive to what's going on. It's just that it seems, like I say over and over again, we seem to be triggered when they want to trigger us. Okay? So I'm going to deal with that because, yes, you can't help but feel pain seeing a child of the Most High, a child of God, being choked out to death, being strangled. That's no different than hanging a man from a tree. So you can't help. Let me tell you, yes, you think we don't feel the pain of what's going on with God's people. But keep in mind, folks, we never stop feeling the pain. Since we've been swinging from trees, we've never stopped feeling the pain. But it's about having the levity and the eyes spiritually to understand what's going on so that you and I and our families can make it through this. So I'm going to go into it in a moment, but I'm going to save that for last because I didn't want that to just deter us from our lesson, because really it's, believe it or not, based on what we're about to teach, what the Most High gave me a few days ago, and I told AC, make sure you put that title up. Two cannot walk together lest they agree. Okay? You're going to have the full understanding spiritually and otherwise of how to navigate through these times. But first you must understand where all the lines are drawn. Okay? Where all the lines are drawn. In order to know how to navigate, you have to know where the what? Where the landfill, where the mines are that might blow you up. You may touch something wrong, you're gone. So there's mines all around that we must navigate and understand to vary from, to stay away from. So it's drawing that line in these times. And that's what we're going into. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Now, check out, and I went over this with Elder Lawyer, and I believe that this is going to be a very, what you would call, constructive, groundbreaking Sabbath class for all of our brothers and sisters who are in attendance. I believe so. Two can't walk together lest they be agreed. And we're going to break this down on 3 separate levels. Nation, family, friends. Where do we draw the line? Or better yet, what is the line that God has drawn for the righteous? Nation, family, friends. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. And once you understand these lines, brothers and sisters, you'll know how to navigate through this trouble, and we'll all be in the wilderness together. You can believe that. Okay? Keep in mind that at the end of this, it all leads to a spiritual resolve, because some of us may right now be on the wrong side of these lines. And that's why a class like this is so timely. Because majority of people don't know where the lines cross when we're in other people's space. So when it says two walk together lest they be agreed, we have to understand that first agreement is with the Almighty. That's the agreement. And two can't walk together lest they be agreed. We were rejected by our God for disobeying his law. We were in disagreement with him. So how do we apply that to our everyday lives? Speaking of nations, speaking of the Gentile nations, two can't walk together unless they be in agreement with us. And we're going to start there first. Before we go in, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
We're breaking it down. Nation, family, friends. And why are we breaking this down on a spiritual level with the Bible today for you Bible believers? Because Satan right now, through all of his co-ops, okay, through all his what you would call psyops, what we're living under right now, lines are being drawn. And they can only affect those who are under his spirit, who are controlled through the courses of what? The principalities and powers of the air. So those under him are drawing lines. Race, black against white. These are lines that are being drawn that Christ said would be. But these are they who are being controlled through the course, through the air, through the power of Satan. And you notice, even though all this chaos is going on, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. Righteous information to give you some levity. Because what? Satan isn't giving mankind, people, any rest right now. No soon as the COVID thing, the COVID operation that you thought was over, calmed down, they created something else. So there's no rest. This is on purpose. People are agitated enough, and now the sun is out and they can't even enjoy it. It's purpose. This was mapped out. This whole year has already been mapped out. But you better not get caught up in it. When that sister got killed years ago and another brother got killed years ago, we told people that the government is using this to bait people out so they'll know who to come against directly when the real military operation rolls out. And I told brothers and sisters, listen, you're not supposed to be out there in these protests. A lot of these protests are actually being led by COINTELPRO, by Black Lives Matter, which is a CIA mechanism being controlled through Zionism, through Black Panther parties. All of these parties, even Christian leaders, all of these people are being used to bait our people out for the slaughter. And we said it years ago, don't be out there. Because what? It calms down and nothing really changes anyway. It only gets worse for us. Mm-hmm. Usually we go out there and it allow the government to implement more draconian laws that will lead to more of our children being killed because there's no real change. You can be out there throwing gasoline and all whatever you like, but they know our people would only go but so far and then calm right back down as if it never happened. Mm-hmm. Understand when you're being triggered. Don't go out there. And we told brothers and sisters the first time, don't go out there. And then you had these other guys go out there with purple on, with a whole army of brothers from the hood with purple t-shirts on. Not realizing they were sitting back saying, okay, see that right there? That's a sign of aggression, that they're building an army right up under us. They baited them out there like that. So to us, it seemed like a show of force. Oh man, yeah, we get it together. You know you're not going to do a darn thing but march up the street. But now you're giving the enemy fuel against you. Christ says he sends us out as sheep among wolves. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. This is the time in which Satan understands who he can trigger and move around like pieces on his chessboard. Listen, folks, this doesn't alarm us all. We told you that. Listen, I almost hate being so redundant and saying the Bible told us this. We've been talking about this for years. I've seen this over when I was in England, when they had people all on the streets and all that. Over in Tiananmen Square, over there in Egypt, when they paid provocateurs to cause an uproar. It was all American government doing these things. I'm going to go into this later. So we have enemies amongst us that's stirring up our communities. Where are these people coming from? Who's rallying these people into these staged scenarios? And then you have what? You have foreign military on the soils of America right now with masks on. It's so convenient that everyone can wear a mask and not be suspected as some type of criminal right now. You notice that? Right after a time in which they roll out masks, now the foreign troops can put on masks and start breaking things and blaming it on black people, saying that now we're causing civil unrest in the United States. You think that's a coincidence? Because for years, when they would do their operations with crisis actors, you had people online who are true journalists. True journalists was actually showing you the same person working in different operations, be it Sandy Hook, be it another shooting. You had real journalists who were showing you the same people being used for these psyops, these false flags. Showing the same people, the same children, same everything. So they say, listen, this is getting in the way because, our Masonic operation and our actors are getting called out.
Right.
So we have to make it where no one understands who's doing the dirty work. Masks. If everyone wearing masks, then no one can now match faces to know that it's the same operation. We told brothers, and everybody, you have some people who pride won't allow them. Sometimes your pride won't allow you to take a minute to reflect and understand that to every action is a reaction. The worst thing them brothers could have did was go out there with shirts on for a 4 or 5 black radius, as if they're going to do something against the American army, because that's how Esau examines it. You can't get easily triggered. You think Christ and the disciples would have done that? Just drawing all of your people out so all the cameras can see exactly who to come against when it's time. These young brothers in the ghetto and all that, in the cities and all that, now are being targeted because of this. It's time. Let me tell you. Two can't walk together lest they be agreed. Two can't walk together. Nation, family, friends. And I'm saying that because so many times people were saying, well, why can't all the Israelite groups come together? Can you see why now? Because you have some people do something that's compromising Christ's words. And one of the most heinous times, one of the most tumultuous times throughout world history. And I'm saying that. You have some Israelites out there shooting guns at a Target place. Okay? Don't even realize that all this stuff is being used. So you can't align yourself with people who are not dealing with the wisdom of Christ. You can't do it. So I can't say, well, I'm going to get together with a person strictly because they're Israelites, when I know there's Israelites in all of our neighborhoods, whether they know they're Israelites or not. Why should I align myself with these people? I'd rather deal with people who's willing to learn and come in and understand the word of the Most High and walk circumspectly. I don't have to align out people who are politically incorrect when it comes to what's going on in this earth, when it comes to what the Bible says, how we should walk in this time, circumspect. But I digress because my lesson isn't on that. But I'm using that as an example. Don't go out there. If you're in this church, link in with your elders and deacons. They'll guide you. They'll guide you. Stay calm, stay in prayer, and take in this lesson today. Two cannot walk together unless they be in agreement, starting with man and the Most High. Elder Lawyer, let's now go. Let's first start with, before we go in, let's do the Shema.
Yes, sir.
And do me a favor, if you can, hit the like button. There's a lot of people in here. Hit the like button. This way it will trend, and so that more people can get into the lesson. And of course, hit the like button because the devil doesn't like that. And above all, make sure after the lesson, go straight to the page, A Gathering 144, and subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you get future notifications. Because again, YouTube has purposely began to, for years, unsubscribe those who would like to see our weekly content. So make sure after this is over, go directly to our page now. At one time, you didn't have to do all this. You just had to hit the bell and subscribe, and you were in the loop. But now, you have to go through all these things and click and go to the page and hit subscribe, hit the bell. They're doing this to do what? It's a form of putting obstacles between those who can see. That's all it is. So make sure you do that. Now I digress. Let's go.
Shema Yasha'Allah Ahaya Allahayanawa Ahaya Akkad.
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 Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one God. His name is Ahaya. Let's go. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. Chapter and verse, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. This is the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse number 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
Can two walk together unless they what?
Be agreed.
Be agreed on every level. Can an Israelite walk with another nation or be in some type of alliance with a Gentile nation in disagreement? When I say in disagreement, we're not talking about personal emotions, someone personally doing something to me. Are their values aligned with mine? Do they serve my God? Because there's no in between. You can't be unequally yoked. Either their God is in control or our God is in control. Okay? Can two walk together lest they be in agreement? Well, the answer is absolutely no when it comes to nation. And not only that, we're not just going to deal with nation. We're going to deal with family. We're going to deal with husband and wife. And we're going to deal with friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to deal with friends. Okay, we're going to deal with friends. You have to understand that if they're under the course of Satan or under Satan's power, we're going to show you how to identify that. That you must deal with these particular people. Not to say that you can't deal with them at all, but you have to deal with them to some degree as the threat they can become until repentance. Until repentance. They are a threat to your spiritual life. Can two walk together lest they be agreed? Let's go. Let's start with the nations, speaking of the Gentiles. Let's go to Deuteronomy, Elder Lawyer. 32, 7 and 8.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse number 7.
Now, keep in mind, we're breaking this down from a Bible standpoint, a God standpoint, or the God of Israel's standpoint. Because he chose his people to be a special people and gave the children of Israel, our people, laws, statutes, and commandments, codes to live by, including our interaction with the other races. See? Let's read Deuteronomy 32, 7 and 8.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse number 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee.
Come on.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance.
When he divided to the nations their inheritance. Okay. When Noah came off the ark with his 3 sons and their wives, the earth would eventually get divided according to the inheritance. And the divide happened on a grand scale during the Tower of Babel, where every nation began to separate from the God that saved Noah and his sons through the flood. Satan came in with that tower, and through that, there was a split, a disagreement. See? Read.
When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam.
Now he separated us during the Tower of Babel. Read.
He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. Verse 9. For the Lord's portion is his people.
For the Lord's portion is his people. Now, when he says he separated the nations according to the number of the children of Israel, the number of the children of Israel going into Egypt was 70. There were 70 angels who separated the sons of Noah into 70 different factions. And at this time, you would have 70 new religions or variants from the Babylonian religion taught at the base of the Tower of Babel. Now you have 70 different quote unquote Gentile Babylonian temples set up all over the earth against our God. Okay? Read on.
For the Lord's portion is his people.
So even though the earth was separated, guess what? And the nations were separated, worshiping different, he severed us from amongst them. We're not like the Egyptians or serve the gods of the Egyptians, or the Most High would have let us stay in Egypt. He severed us to give us a code for ourselves. And only if these Gentiles would walk with this code would we align ourselves politically, religiously, and financially across the board with them. Not us following what they're talking about, but them doing what? Bowing to the God of Israel. Begin our communication, our alliance with them. See, every nation when it comes to alliances has terms, except our people. So the Most High God of the Bible with this code is setting the terms. We know that you were scattered. We know that you're dealing with the Babylonian religions. We know that your God, Satan, has always battled against my God. See? So the Most High severed us as a special people and gave us law. Right?
If I can read this real quick.
Come on.
To the next one. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 13. Going into the nature of that relationship according to how God desired it to be. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them.
To observe and to do them. What is that? An agreement. I'll put you above all these Gentile nations if you agree with me. Two cannot walk together unless they be agreed. Now, let's go into the Apocrypha real quick, Elder Lawyer. And let's get Sirach, Ecclesiasticus 17 and 17. Read it.
Sirach 17 and 17. For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people.
That means a God. When you go into the book of Jasher, it breaks down when it says in Genesis 11, the 11th chapter, it gives you more depth, more insight to that. When the angels say, let us go down and divide the tongues. Lest man do what? Come into the heights of the heavens, like Lucifer promised, to sit on the sides of the north. Let us split the tongues, because anything they imagine mankind will accomplish if we don't split their tongues. Okay? Let's divide. Let's destroy their communication. So it says what? He put rulers. These were the spirits that came down and divided the languages at the Tower of Babel. Read it.
For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people.
That ruler is a power, a God. Read.
But Israel is the Lord's portion.
But Israel is the Lord's portion. But guess what? Those are lesser gods. Our God made the gods. And that's why Paul says, even though there be gods many, but it's our God who created the heavens. Our God, Ahia, created the gods. And we're his portion. So that's the agreement. So I'm not going to bow to an Arab God or a European white man's God or an Asian God or a Babylonian Cushite like an East Indian God. Because my God made theirs. You have to understand the initial agreement. And this is what breaks us free from the bonds of the Gentiles who have always battled against us. You must first understand your God, because what? They understand theirs. They're not confused like us. You're not going to go inside China and see a Christian church or a different temple on every corner. You're not even going to go into the suburbs where white people are and see churches all over the place, every other block, separating them. You're not going to see a mosque erected in the midst of the suburbs where white people live. That only happens to us. See? So you must know your God, because why? Eventually, that's a ripple effect. That trickles down. When you understand that agreement first and how he deal with their nation, then you will apply that relationship to all relationships now. Down to family, down to husband, wife, down to children. But you must first understand that relationship and how our God gives us the understanding on how to relate to the Gentiles, the other races of people. Now, the race war you're seeing in the earth today is only because they're losing power and they're looking to now engage to put us back under their power. Why? Because without us, there is no empire.
Mm-hmm.
So they was using covert ways of oppression. They're stinking evil religions like Islam, like modern day pagan Christianity. They were doing it through stealth. But now that they no longer have those strongholds, now they're giving you the physical race war now. But we were always under a race war. A battle between gods. Folks. So the Most High is setting the record straight and making it so that now there's no gray areas. After the day, there'll be no gray areas. I'm going to break it all the way down. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Okay? We become enemies of God, and eventually it breaks down to sometimes we realize through growth in time, like, man, by me being an enemy of God, walking after the course of this world, I was actually sleeping with the enemy. Because I didn't have the concept of what an enemy is. I thought an enemy is someone who just don't like me. No, it don't work that way. An enemy starts with those who serve these other gods. Because at any time that those spirits can trigger them against us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're giving you some real good in-depth understanding, and we're going to break it down today on the lowest level for you. Read that again for me one time, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Sirach chapter 17, verse 17. For in the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set a ruler over every people.
These are gods. Read.
But Israel is the Lord's portion.
But Israel is the Lord's portion. Now, let's go to Psalms, the 96th chapter in the 4th verse. Now, for those who are fairly new, you see us going one scripture, then another scripture, another precept, because the Bible tells us in Isaiah 28 how to break the Bible code, breaking down the mysteries. Precept upon precept, precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Okay? So now what we're doing is we are now using all the precepts and joining them so that you can have what? A clear illustration of what the Most High is saying. And you can only do that through linking the precepts, the mysteries, through linking the precepts. And those mysteries have been given to his saints. Okay? Now, let's read Psalms 96 and 4.
Psalms chapter 96, verse 4. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods.
Now, that's number one. Understand that our God is to be feared above all gods. I'm not going to fear the God of the European, because the God of the European didn't put us in captivity due to us breaking God's agreement. Our God did. Our God raised the Gentiles over us due to our disobedience. It wasn't the European God, Yahweh, the God of the Shashu. And we know the Shashu are the Edomites, the Europeans today. Their God, the God of the Shashu was Yahweh. That ain't the God that did this to us. Okay? It wasn't the God of the Egyptians that allowed the Gentiles to rise over us. It was our God. We broke the agreement. Or the God of the Arabs. We know that the Arabs are worshiping a female deity by the name of Allat. Allat of Persian mythology. It's Ashtoreth. The same Esther that the Europeans is worshiping every Easter and every Christmas as the Queen Mother of Heaven, hiding her as Mary. Okay? So these are lesser gods. We don't fear the God of the Arabs, neither will we bow to those gods. We do not fear the God of the white man. Okay? We don't fear his God. We don't fear the Chinese God, because it was our God due to disobedience who put us under these conditions, because we break agreements. These other nations are on code with their God. They're on code with their people. And that's what keeps them over us. So no one has really broke it down to the lowest degree to have us understand how all this coincides. Our relationship with God, our relationship with the other nations, our relationship with our families, the relationship with our friends. It all starts here. What you have, Brother Lawyer?
Yes, sir. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 46.
Read it.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
He will scatter thee among all people. Read.
From the one end of the other, from the one end of the earth, even unto the other, and there shalt thou serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Even wood and stone. Wood represents Christianity, the cross. And guess what? You got it. The stone represents the Kaaba stone. Mm-hmm. This was a curse given to the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. And the Lord said, if you break my agreement, the same people I've placed you over will become your rulers. Mm-hmm. You won't be teaching them about me. They'll be teaching you about their lesser gods. They'll keep you scattered, divided. And no sooner as you begin to understand that there's a spiritual race war against you, when you start to wake up and start rallying against one component, we'll send another one. Oh, they done figured out these Chinese are not just setting up stores in their neighborhood. They're bringing gods and different worships and different demons from over the Middle East. Okay, let's send the East Indians. Switch and bait. Let's bring some ancient Babylonians in their neighborhood and disguise them as stores. Disguise them as religious temples. Let's bring over some more immigrants. No sooner as we begin to understand, immigration comes in with other gods, other demons to keep us asleep, to keep us diverted. Be like, okay, the other stuff didn't work. And then you see a new pristine new shop set up. And you think, well, okay, I tried everything else, not realizing it's the same campaign, a racial spiritual war against us. Let's get Psalms 96 and 4. Let's read it again.
Yes, sir. Psalms 96, verse 4. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods.
Our God is to be feared above all gods. Read.
For the gods of the nations are idols.
Are what?
Are idols.
There's an idol attached to every religion on earth outside of God's chosen true religion. The understanding of how to worship according to the Torah. The information that was given to the prophets. See? Our God says in Exodus 20 not to bow to idols. There's no idol attached to our God. And that's a clear sign to what we should disagree with. You find out any idol attached to a religion, automatically you're in disagreement. The enemy lies dormant in that particular religion. I don't care how nice it seems. I don't care how friendly and accepting it might seem. If there's idols attached to it, demons are lying dormant. And you think you're being invited into a gathering, all the people was nice because they had food and their houses looked nice, and they invited you in because we're always the people that's looking to be coddled. And then you go home and now all type of chaos is going on in your home. Your children are running rampant, out of control, and you're not realizing when you're lining yourself with these people, you're bringing demons back into your home. They're not for your turn. Now, these demons will work for the Gentiles. It'll work for them because these are the gods they've always served. But when we begin to align ourselves and go to their home and follow their religions, it means total chaos to us. And we going back to church and saying, well, Lord, I'm trying to serve you and it's working out for everyone. Why is it not working for me? because that's their God. It works for them. And it becomes chaos for us. It becomes chaos for us. Let's finish reading. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 20.
First Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20.
1 Corinthians 10 and 20. Listen.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils.
The things that the Gentiles sacrifice,
they sacrifice to devils.
So you don't know this because a lot of us, being raised children of slaves, never looked into the history of these religions the Gentiles have brought over to us. On the surface, the way they deliver it and proselytize, it seems like an acceptable way of life. You'll look at it and say, well, it's working for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing they're sacrificing directly to demons. To demons. And on top of that, with every religion who's aligned under that Babylonian code, it requires child sacrifice. So you wonder why children are so dysfunctional in this earth. Why they look to actually protect the LBGT and all that, because these are a lot of children who have actually been abused under their rituals. And at any time, they could trigger that spirit that they have actually that they're actually matured and nurtured and groomed in that child. Knowing that once a child is abused, it never grows up. It stays in that abused state. Satan can control that. So they need that element throughout all of their empires. People in the society that they can control and trigger against the rest of the citizens. Hurt people who don't trust anyone that Satan could use as enemies and trigger them within a society at any time. And we're going to get there in a moment. We're going to get there in a moment. That's why it's called Moloch sacrifice. It's not all the time just killing children, because that's part of it too. That's part of that's why it says, Paul was warning us. They're sacrificing the devils. When you do the research historically in the Old Testament, child sacrifice comes with it. They kill children, they drink their blood, all this crazy stuff that you thought was just horror films. This is it's like going to church for them, folks. It's like just going to a regular old gathering for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that. They have other children that when they deal with their ritualistic magic in these private parties they have, a lot of these children are actually given to the grand wizard at the end of it and are raised in Satanism. Why do you think these look at the pagan population growing over the earth? Why? Because in these parties, these freak satanic parties of the Gentiles, it's like going to church for them, folks. All the children produced out of it, some of them are killed, and others are given over to the grand wizard and pagan covens to be raised as Satanists. We're going to tell you like it is so you can understand a line has always been drawn. You have to understand where the line is and what's really happening so that we can come on the right side of this and understand the spiritual warfare that we must use against it. But first, you have to understand where the physical lines are drawn. Now you understand that. Now we can now lean over into the spiritual warfare now. But you can't fight it spiritually if first you don't know where the lines are drawn physically.
Mm-hmm.
Read it again, Elder Lloyd.
1 Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God.
And not to our God. Read.
And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils.
And I should not that you should have fellowship with devils. Now, and I know some people are confused out there because you would see a story in which the Most High told our father, the promised Abraham, to take up his son Isaac for sacrifice. But it wasn't to kill Isaac. It was actually foreshadowing a time in which the Most High would send his son in the earth to die for the sins of the nation. The first begotten of the Father would be sacrificed. So Abraham, being the father of promise, would trust in faith that the Most High would save his son. And through obedience, took Isaac to Mount Moriah. But what did the Most High do? Soon as Abraham was about to go on and go for what the Most High said, an angel stopped him and moved Isaac, the chosen seed, our father, out of the way. And put the scapegoat. Satan is the scapegoat who would be killed through all this, will be trampled on and destroyed. Was found in the thicket. And guess what? The goat was killed. Foreshadowing or showing a future prophecy of Christ dying on the cross, dying on the crucifix to destroy the power of the enemy. So Satan, under his new Moloch religions, would do the absolute reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Since God did not kill his son, it will be required that those who are aligned with me in these governments, it will be required, if you want to get anywhere in our society, you must give me your son. The Most High has his son, which was sacrificed, and under Moloch sacrifice, Satan requires sons. Under Moloch ritualistic Masonic sacrifice. We're giving you some insight of the real world first, folks. Not this false reality taught to you in your schools and in your religious institutions. We're giving you the real world here. And let me tell you this. Those in the academy already understands this. We've broken it down on every level. Because this is school teaching here. Okay? We're breaking it down on the school level for you, but this is how we teach in the academy every week. It's school. To now we understand why John Travolta's sons just come up missing and no one says anything. Why this particular star's son come up missing and no one says anything and the story goes away. And that's why the Lord says, that's why Paul gave us some insight. That the things the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to the Most High. So Paul is warning us and understanding and letting us know what we are aligning ourselves with, what we are beginning to come into agreement with. You think you just building a business relationship with a Gentile. Well, no, it's deeper than that. These Gentiles are going to take you to different rabbis and different high priests and all that and say, how far would you like to go? It doesn't stop here. How far would you like to go under our religion, under our alliances or business agreements? We can take you as far as you want to go if you're willing to sacrifice what's needed. See, we don't have to worry about that. Why? Our God gave us our sacrifice, Christ. And he told us, the righteous, those who look to seek righteousness, that we present our body daily as a living sacrifice to the Most High. Our service in teaching and gathering God's people and giving them the knowledge of the God that was lost is our service. This is our sacrifice. The Most High doesn't require what Satan requires. Mm-hmm. He's merciful. He's gracious. And he have a serious care for children. Our God does. Let's go.
Verse 21, 1 Corinthians 10 and 21. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils.
So you can't be in an agreement with these Gentiles who's dealing with all these different religions. Even folks, if it means severing business ties. If I had my way right now and had, and have our people understood it, I would tell brothers and sisters, listen, let's not support any stores anywhere. We go cook our own food, support each other's cuisines in our own homes until the Gentiles come sit at the table and tell us what they have to offer. First of all, you have to come to the door with what God you serve. Because I'm not fueling my enemy against my people. Mm-hmm. Oh, you a Muslim? No, I can't. I can't do business with you. Can't. Now you might think that's unfair or whatever the case is. But I'm going to show you a scenario where Nehemiah, the prophet, dealt with this. Where Gentiles would like to come in and disrespect our Sabbath, but trying to sell things to our people, knowing that it would lead to us breaking the agreement with our God. A real-time prophet had to deal with these Gentiles and sit down with them and say, okay, I haven't seen you in the neighborhood. You would think they would have enough courtesy when they come into our neighborhoods to sit down with us and let us know what their intentions are. They feel entitled. Mm-hmm. As if they're supposed to be there just pillaging us. I'm like, nah. But even in old time, when you wanted to talk and deal with the community, you had to deal with the chief over that community. You have to have a meeting with him so he'll understand what people he's aligning his people with, that he's entrusted to serve and protect. They feel entitled. They can just come and set up anything and just cipher all the resources from us without even a hello. No, but first of all, this thing ain't gonna work over here. This store over here. Where you come from, who's your family, what God you serve. See? Oh, okay. Oh, you a Buddhist? Oh, you serve the devil. Pack up and get up out of here. Okay? Oh, well, I serve Allah. It's a way of life. No, that's Allah, a female deity. And if you go on Google and hit and type in kiss the Kaaba, you'll see it's a female sex organ that people are putting their head in to kiss the rock in Mecca. That's the goddess you serve. You're not bringing your satanic Babylonian worship of the Queen Mother of Heaven into our communities and destroying one of our children. Not allowed. What book you're reading? I read the Quran. Okay, you take you and your book and pack up and get up out of here. We Bible people. Old and New Testament. I'm not funding. It's like funding an army against your own people. Let's get Deuteronomy 7, 1 and 6. Let's go get to the point where it says you can't sit at the table
1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse number 21.
Yes.
Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils.
You can't be down. And now Paul is warning us. We can't sit down and drink the cup of the Almighty and drink the cup of devils. Because either of us have two separate agendas, objectives. He's trying to see how much he can get for his people to serve his God. And we're the same. No, dude. Put down that kufi. I don't care what race you are. Get baptized and get yourself together. Put down that book and serve the living God. His name is Ahia. If you're dealing with Buddha, break the Buddha and come under the righteousness of the Almighty, or we can't do business with you. Get up out of here with that mess. Okay? Because you can't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Either they're pulling on you or you're pulling on them. There is no amicable middle ground. Anyone that's in the middle is spewed out. Okay? Either you're bringing them in under your power, which is your God, or they're bringing you under theirs. Read, Elder Lawyer.
Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils.
You can't say you're down with our God, but yet take all of our resources, spiritual resources, and our children and all that, and turn them over to Satanists. You have to draw a line. Especially when it comes to who's teaching your children too. And I wanted to mention that because I mentioned that in the academy before. I went to school, I was working, years ago, I was working in the insurance field, and they told me my son had a discipline problem. And I come into the school and I seen the principal, this sister with a shaved head, looking like Mike Tyson in his prime. She's supposed to be a principal of the school. And I'm like, man, I should have been up here. I'm like, so you're the one calling the shots up in here? And then she gets up and I'm like, well, hold up. I'm a real man, so you have to back up. So I see there's many discipline problems up in this school. And my son is just dealing with the residual effects of it. So then I go and see the teacher that said he was having a problem. And she looked like she's from the letter community trying to tell me that my son has a discipline problem. And don't forget, I know how the spirits work. If they can't get you directly, they'll use people who serve the devil to attack you indirectly. This is a spiritual warfare here. And I'm like, okay. Now I understand what's happening here. The Most High wanted me to see who was influencing my child in my absence. I'm like, so what class you teach again? Because let me tell you, there's no way, based on how strong I believe in what I believe in, if I was a teacher, that what I believe in could just stay at home. Some of that influence would fall on the children I'm teaching. That's common sense. It's how I live. It's how I think. So how I think and operate will go into my teaching methods. So if I disagree with this person's lifestyle, don't forget how she feels and how she think and how she view things will go into her teaching methods. And I'm dealing with a troubled child at home because my child is being taught by a troubled child. I pulled my son out of there. I made a choice. I understood why my child was having discipline problems, confusion. I understood it then. See? So I had to make a choice. Two can't walk together lest they be agreed. I'm not going to allow you to spend more time teaching my child while I'm at work than me, in disagreement with your lifestyle, in disagreement with your beliefs. You have more time to influence my child than I do, and you're dealing with a lifestyle that my God disagrees with. Can't do it. Two can't walk together lest they be agreed. Let's read it.
Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils.
You can't say you're down with the Most High, but yet you're sleeping with the devil. You're in agreement with the devil. And some people say, well, it's just business. Listen, I'll do business with a Gentile, but it'll always be on my terms. When I'm talking about the other nations, it'll always be on my terms. But I'm not going to relegate any power over to them where they can influence or hurt my people. Let's give the example of Nehemiah real quick, Elder Lawyer. Get Deuteronomy 7, 1 and 6, and then let's get Nehemiah and show you how we must be when it comes to these nations first. And then now we're going to segue over into family next. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. We're going to do family next. First, how we deal with the Gentiles. That's what we're going into now. And then we're going to go into personal family. How do you interact with them, with those who oppose our God, who's worldly, whose actions are after the course of this world? Where's the line drawn between us and them? How do I interact with them? And then we're going to break it down to the next level, not just family, immediate family, husband, wife, children. Two cannot walk together unless they be in agreement. And why am I going into this now with all the chaos going on right now? You know why? Because it's those who understand these codes would understand how to navigate through this. It's going to be those that are being directed under the course of the devil that will be used as enemies against you and throw barriers in the way. So we're showing you how to navigate and understand the barriers before they're put up against you. Some of them are already up against you. Let's go, Elder Lloyd.
Deuteronomy 7 and 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it.
Now, this is the God of Israel speaking to Moses. The children of Israel. I've saved you from the Egyptians and all their wickedness and all the paganism they're dealing with. So when I send you into the land to possess the new land, and we're getting that land back, folks. It's coming. Read.
And has cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Gergesites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them.
Thou shalt make no agreement with them. See, this is why the Christians don't want you to read the Holy Bible, folks. The Old Testament. And when I say Christian, I'm talking about these pagan Edomite usurpers. You're not supposed to go into no business contract with a heathen, with a devil worshiper, a blood drinker. Read.
Nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Okay? Why? Because they serve other gods. You think because somebody, that person is exotic. She's this and she's exotic and she got the different look and all that. Listen, what God you serve? Do your father drink blood when he go out and sacrifice children around the corner? Let me go see your family. Do your mother work at an abortion clinic?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You sit there trying to get with somebody, off of an Instagram picture. Don't even know these people. We didn't know straight from Listen, and even my sons, even if they going through whatever they go through, because I have a son, I have a grandson and a granddaughter. All praise be to the Most High. My grandson looks just like me. My granddaughter look like my sister. Right? So I'm good. But I tell my sons in a minute, listen, don't come to me with no crap when it comes to when it's time. Don't come to me with some person you just drag from an Instagram thing or somewhere and you didn't get no in-depth research before you made a decision. Okay? Because you're not bringing the devil. The devil isn't coming to dinner. Okay? Straight up. I told my son, he was about to go to school. He's in college now. Right before he went to college, I'm like, well, I was looking at his phone. Sometimes I'd go through it and I was just looking to see what he was doing, just looking over. And I was seeing some of the wrong connections. And I looked right at my son, Mike. I said, listen, boy, don't bring me a child that doesn't look like me. You understand that? Am I being racist? No, I'm not being racist. That's not racist. As far as I'm concerned, this is for self-preservation. See this? I need this to continue. It has nothing to do with another race.
That's right.
This has nothing to do with another race. It's continuing. Boy, I brought you in here. You looking like me. You're going to continue this. It has nothing to do with white people or Chinese people. It got everything to do with the covenant I made with that God, the covenant God made with our fathers. You better bring in a child looking like me. Last I checked, and he brought her over the other week, a young girl from Liberia, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, you know what? And that's a beautiful young sister. And I'm looking at my son, and I'm like, thumbs up. And he says, yeah. I'm like, see, it's working now. But I could have been like any other parent and say, as long as you happy. No, but you put a buzz in their ear to let them know what would satisfy you. Because guess what? That's in children. They want to know, especially a young man, what will keep the honor between them and their father. And she was a very respectful. She's educated. She's intelligent. And you know what? Her desires is unto him. It's what he wants. And I'm like, okay, we can work now. It's not that I was against these other people he had, but I seen that it was the flesh driving his decisions. And he wasn't thinking long-term legacy. Mm. Let's finish reading that. Read that again.
Yes, sir. Verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto a son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly.
So it's best to get in front of it than have to deal with the residual effects of demons being brought up in your house. And now your children are coming to you crying and all types of pain because they weren't directed. And it's hard for our people to direct them because our people in the communities don't even know who their God is and what's required when it comes to relationships and how to give our sons and daughters over to their husbands, wives, or whatever the case is, continuing the Israelite legacy. There's no legacy to actually continue because our people think we're African. Our people think we're black. Our people think we're African American. We don't understand that there's an Israelite legacy. An agreement that with our God. Coming out of Egypt, a prerequisite was that, listen, in order for this to continue, you must teach your children of this great salvation, of me saving you out of Egypt. Constantly remind them of this when I save them from pagans. from heathens. See? But what happens if that code is broken and you go deal with a Satan worshiper? Now that child is confused now. Because now every time the father speaks against that God, there's a fight in the house. You're disrespecting my parents. My parents like you, and now you're going to speak down on their religion. Now the child is being taught the principles of the Israelite, but then of this other woman who's dealing with whatever. When you away, she's sneaking all, hey, go play with Buddha. Go. Mm-hmm. I got you a little Buddha toy that squeaks. Mm-hmm. See? Why have your child, man, why would you have your child deal with that mental anguish, that stress that comes with a divided house? Why would you even put your children through that? Read on.
For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods.
Come on.
So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Now let's get Nehemiah real quick in Acts 13, because I have a lot to cover.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nehemiah, the 13th chapter, the 15th verse, and then we're going to get Acts 15 to show you how we align ourselves if we're going to have an alliance or a connection with Gentiles or other nations. Because that example is in the Bible too. Right? Let's get Nehemiah 13 and 15. Read it.
Nehemiah 13, verse 15. In those days saw I in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading donkeys, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day.
So you had Gentiles bringing in things to sell and all that on the Sabbath day. Because what? That's one of the most lucrative times of the week for Gentiles. Saturday. Most Gentiles work up until, at least the maximum, they'll work up until Friday sundown. And they would have Saturday, our Sabbath, as the most bountiful financial take-in for the week. But our God is different than that. Like, nah, when the Gentiles are busy, you're resting. So the Gentiles wanted to open up shop in Jerusalem on Sabbath day. Read.
It says, finishing verse 15, and I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals.
And he testified against them and say, listen, shut down until Saturday sundown. Okay? When the sun go down, we can do business with you. But you're not going to disrespect our Sabbath. Speaking of the Gentile nations. Read.
Verse 16. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day?
And profane the Sabbath day. Read.
Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us, and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
So by us purchasing from the Gentiles on the Sabbath day, it led to our God bringing trouble to our families. It began to disrupt our communities, because that was a time we were supposed to do what? Consecrate or continue our agreement with him, to rest and to actually thank him. for destroying the Egyptians, for setting up our land, for protecting our children. That was our Sunday, folks, the Sabbath. What Sunday is today used to be for us the Sabbath in our land, totally quiet, all stores closed, so that we can remember the God who saved us to Egypt and the God who created all the heaven and earth in 6 days and rested the seventh day. The Gentiles knew that. It's like, I'm going to go there with some goods and some new contractions and new inventions, and I can get them to buy up, and now they lose that connection with their God. Eventually, their God will have wrath with them, fight against them, and by default, will raise above them. So you thought it was just commerce. You thought it was just you went out to buy something. The Lord say, listen, I gave you all these other days to go get what you need. This day is between you and me. Mm-hmm. This is the day in which you continue the legacy that I've given your forefathers and teach it to your children. This is the day in which your children remember me. And when they come of age on the Sabbath, they're respected and understand its value. And if the Gentile try to intervene into that space, what happens? Read.
Verse 19, and it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath.
Until what?
After the Sabbath.
Until after the Sabbath. Read.
And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should be no burden that there should be or should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
So they put men guards at the gates. That's like having brothers on the corners of place of high commerce in our neighborhoods, like 52nd Street and other areas where Gentiles are selling and saying, listen, y'all better not open up and have your people profane my Sabbath or cause our people to do it. You can sell what you want to your own people. These were true leaders, folks, keeping the agreement between us and our God. Read.
Verse 20. So the merchants and sellers of all kind were lodged without Jerusalem once or twice.
Come on.
21. Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you.
He says what?
I will lay hands on you.
He said, if y'all come out here again after we warned you with men, Nehemiah the prophet says, we're going to lay hands on you. Either you back up or we're going to drag you away with your merchandise. See, and this is why the Gentiles don't want you to read these scriptures. If you don't believe how this works, folks, I need any of you at any time, if you're Black, Caribbean, or whatever, set up a pop-up shop, a Caribbean shop, pop-up in the suburbs. And you will see this scripture go into full effect by the Gentiles. How they'll call the cops and drag your behind back to where you come from. Because it's deeper than just commerce and buying, folks. Where your treasures are, your heart shall be also. And you're actually financially grandizing the nations who have always destroyed us, and you're actually financing their temples that they worship. They give their money directly to their priests, their rabbis, and all that to pray against you. This is the spiritual warfare. Read on.
Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
Exactly, but we have sellouts in our community. Predominantly those of Prince Hall, Shriners, and all them. These are the taskmasters, like a show we did earlier last year, that they have set up as overlords over the people, over the communities. And these are they who are making the agreements with these immigrant East Indians and Chinese people and others to come into our community and loot us and destroy us, to totally divide us. It's these Masons. The Rosicrucians are in agreement with these so-called Prince Hall Freemasons. These people who have these HSBCUs, these schools in which they can actually fund their bribes through. And guess what these black leaders must do in our communities? Turn the people over as sacrifices to the lesser beings, to the Gentile heathens, the devil worshipers. See? You can't be in an agreement with them like that, because these people wouldn't sell their people to you. Can you imagine some black people or Latino people or whatever, or what they call Latino, which we know are from the seeds of Ephraim? Can you imagine them going over in the Chinese and saying, well, listen, let's make an agreement. I'm going to set up shops all up in your communities. Okay? And I'm going to give you a kickback. Can you imagine that? Listen, let me tell you, you go to China with that and see what you can't even go to Chinatown with that, let alone go into China. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you a kickback. That's our people, sellouts, so-called leaders. Let's get the last piece to show you if we are in agreement. So the prophet was like, if you come in and try to infringe on that line, so that our children would break the agreement with our God on the Sabbath day. Now that's a time in which we connect with the Most High. What are we doing right here on the Sabbath, folks? We're edifying. Mm-hmm. We're connecting. Where two or more gathered, he's in the midst. The Spirit of the Almighty is amongst us, directing God's people. This is what the Sabbath is for. So man, some simple Gentile over there who worshiped Buddha yesterday coming with some toys to buy outside our church. And the children be looking at it like, yeah, mom, hey, mom, I want one. And that Gentile is sitting there with the shiny stuff, diverting our children from understanding their legacy. We look at some brothers and say, listen, go take care of that. Okay? Go tell him he's in the wrong spot. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, if we will align ourselves with the Gentiles, what is the agreement? Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Let's go. Acts 15. Mm-hmm. Now, if we implemented this as a nation, folks, like the Bible stated, if the Christian pastors were really on code and believed this Bible and followed Christ, we wouldn't have the issues of the riots you see right now. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have that issue because there wouldn't be a Gentile policing our neighborhoods.
That's right.
It wouldn't happen. No, dude. You go police where you live at. That's the way it used to be. Where a police would have a personal vested interest in the advancement of that community. He wouldn't become Gestapo and put a boot on his own people without what? Without retaliation. Because you have to live amongst those people. See? So what we were saying applied if they really applied this according to the Most High, there would be no riots. There would be nothing. Because he wouldn't have been able to get that close to us to harm our children. Finish reading.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 15, verse number 14.
Come on.
Simeon have declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree
So now, what Christ did, Christ took that power back that was lost through disobedience. He set up the disciples in his government amongst the disciples to reinstill or re-emphasize that code that was given by his Father in the Old Testament. And say, no, you're not going to be scattered amongst the Gentiles and serve their God. I'm going to show you a way out where the Gentiles must leave their religions and follow you. You must direct the Gentiles back to me. Christ would undo the curse. So now, instead of us being at the behest of the Gentiles and serving their gods, under Christ, we would turn that back to its rightful place according to the law. See? Christ turned it around. Paul wasn't, aligning himself with the pagan temples and going to their temples and becoming part of their churches and temples and all that. No, he was pulling the Gentiles out of their religions, directing the Gentiles on how to serve the true living God. Here's the example.
Acts 15 and 14. Simeon have declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name.
That's Cornelius.
And to this agree the words of the prophets as it is written. After this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things.
Who doeth all these things. Now the Gentiles must seek the true and living God, not the lesser gods they served after the fall of the Tower of Babel. So it's upon the true teachers to bring the Gentiles out of their pagan beliefs. And now we are in agreement. But the Gentiles must do what? There's a few verses go there where it shows their actions, what they must do. Read.
Yes, sir. Verse 19. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God.
So we're not going to trouble the Gentiles who are now no longer drinking blood, sacrificing children, being heathens, profaning our Sabbath. Because these have turned to our God now. They're no longer Buddhist. They're no longer pagan Christians. They're no longer Muslims. See? They're no longer New Agers. They're no longer atheists. Read.
Verse 20. But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols.
See? Because now they broke the idols now. No more Buddha, no more Allah, no more false Christ, Cesar Borgia. Read.
And from fornication.
Fornication is what? Unlawful sexual activity. And I'm going to go into that in a moment. No more of that. No more just sleeping around doing what you want to do and waking up the next morning, don't know what bed you're in and all that. It's part of your satanic saturnalia rituals. No more your freak parties. It's over. Read.
And from things strangled, and from blood.
And from blood, sacrificing. So when the Gentiles renounce those ways, we can now make an agreement with them. See, the Bible is clear. Don't forget, Christ came to establish a government. It says a government will be on his shoulders. So there's terms of engagement. When another nation comes to us for enterprise or whatever, understand that we're joining an alliance with them. And we have to see whether or not what they're bringing is aligned with what's required by our God. It's that simple. Okay, you're going to put down Buddha? You're going to learn? You're going to be baptized? You're going to come under the hedge of our God. Now we can talk business. Okay. Come on. Now, hold that. And now we're going to go into, now we've dealt with nation. It's about to get good. You know, it's pretty good already, but we're about to get real good. We're about to go into family. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Now, Gentiles, other nations, you can't serve the dark forces and align yourself and grandize yourself financially and otherwise off of the children of light. There's a new day. Okay. Hold tight. We're coming back with two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Family. What's lying dormant in our communities? Hold tight. Hit the like button. It's about to get good. The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out here anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Thank you. Make sure you all, if you're just coming in, hit that like button. This way we can get those numbers up, because I'm sure this is where it gets more personable now. You don't want to miss this. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. We already dealt with the nations on one level. There's a lot we could actually delve into that, but I think you all get the gist. You're serving other gods, you can't do business with the children of Israel. Okay? Period. You cannot have access to our children to teach them of lesser gods. Okay? You stay over there with the devil, we'll stay here with our God. That's how it works with the Gentiles. Now, we are about to go into two cannot walk together unless they agree. Family. Okay? Because so many times we hear circumstances where, what? There's people in my family that has constantly given me, some level of lashback for believing what I believe. There's obstacles in getting my family to see what I see. What does that mean for you? How can that turn in your favor or against you altogether? Let's deal with family. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11:3. Let's read. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. And that's on every level, starting with family.
1 Corinthians 11:3.
Let's start at the first verse.
Yes, sir. Verse 1. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that ye remember me in all things, and keep the ordinances as I deliver them to you.
Keep the ordinances which I deliver unto you.
But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ,
Every man is Christ,
and the head of every woman is the man,
which means there is no disagreement between God, Ahia, and his son Christ. They're one. There's no disagreements. They're tight. So the head of Christ is the Almighty, the God who made him. Read.
and the head of woman is the man,
And the head of woman is the man. They're to be one, like Christ and God is one. Read.
and the head of Christ is the Most High.
And the head of Christ is the Almighty. Okay, here it is. We're supposed to be aligned with Christ as one as he is with God. And the woman is supposed to be in line with what? With man, like man is aligned with Christ. It's quite that simple. Anything outside of that breaks the agreement. Woman was put here for man, not the other way around. Man was put here for God. So I'm putting everything in its proper perspective so we'll understand the times we're living in. Because if you don't understand that, when it's time to navigate through this and y'all fighting one against another, you both will be taken in a snare. Understand that. That's number one. Let's go to 1 Peter's. 3:1.
1 Peter 3:1.
Two can't walk together unless they agree. Read.
Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, that they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear, whose adorning let it not be the outward adorning of plaiting the hair, and of wearing of gold, or of putting on apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart, in which that is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of a great price.
A meek and quiet spirit from a woman is pleasing to the Almighty. Okay? That's not a badge of honor, thinking that it's a unique spirit or something to actually celebrate, being boisterous, overbearing, talking too much. That's nothing to celebrate. So the Most High is putting things in order, because these are the behaviors that lead to disagreements. And two cannot walk together unless they agree. Now, some people will say, well, I'm like this because of that. That's an impossibility. You have total power over your temple. Total power over it. It doesn't matter what someone else does. You have the power to be what God requires from you. Because if you're right and the other is wrong, either you're going to come to an amicable understanding where your influence will overpower that person to help change them, or the Most High is going to move them anyway. The Most High is going to move them anyway. So you must be right regardless of, and stop saying that, well, I'm like this because that happened to me. I'm like this because he's like that. Doesn't make any sense. Your agreement is with the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to take on a negative and become negative because of a negative. See? You're not going to do that. Read.
Verse 5, for after this, in old time, the holy women also who trusted in God.
See that? That's a woman that trusted in God, regardless of what the guy was dealing with. When you look at the story of Abigail during the time of David, she was married to the king. This king was off. She never disrespected her husband, but she had wisdom. David needed some rations and some help to overcome during a time of war. Ran into him and knowing that, listen, if you help me when I get full power, I'm going to hook you up. You're going to be straight. I'm going to look out for you. But this guy didn't understand who he was dealing with. His wife did.
Mm-hmm.
Abigail seen the power of David and his men and realized, my husband is acting foolish and not giving David what's needed for his men. This man have the power to kill us all, and yet this guy is being stubborn, bullheaded. She didn't fight against her husband. She was still what? Virtuous. All that. She did all the right things. She saved the whole camp by doing the right thing. She wasn't going to become wicked because her husband was wicked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So under the veil of night, some men and all that went with her and took her to David's camp and say, listen, I know you're planning to kill us all. Please spare us. Please spare us. My husband makes the wrong decisions. End up giving David what was needed. And guess what? Eventually, her husband just dropped one day. He was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
She stayed doing right, saved the whole kingdom through her wisdom, even though her husband was foolish.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The Most High dealt with him and spared the rest of the people alive. And she stayed virtuous. And you know what happened? The Most High gave her to David. See? She didn't get out of the pocket and get out of character and become indignant. She let the Most High patience work to deal with him. If he ain't right, eventually the Most High is going to move him anyway. But you're not going to make me negative because you can't see straight. I'm going to serve the living God regardless of what you're doing, husband. So if you don't want to serve the living God, that's okay. But you're not going to get in my way and you're not going to move that behavior on me to a degree in which I'm disobeying now and I'm out of character with my God. See? Because some of us, and it's a bad habit we have actually developed, mainly sisters, who take being boisterous with a lot of mouth as some badge of honor. And it's not. It's distasteful. It's not the right demeanor for a woman with class, a daughter of Zion. You are the reverse of the curse. You're not haughty. See? That's why, believe it or not, Hollywood and others will put a lot of money so that you could portray that type of demeanor, live on TV through reality shows because they want you, because believe it or not, all the nations are laughing at you with that behavior. You're entertainment for them. That's not you. That's the cursed you. And Paul began to put that back into perspective. Why? Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible tell you what happens to a man when it comes to a woman with many words. Let's get that in Ecclesiastes real quick.
Mhm.
It's like a sandy way. You got it?
Yep. Yep.
That's what I want. Yep.
Let's see here.
We'll get it. Hold tight. It's like walking up a sandy way.
I know exactly what
Yeah,
you
it's
you're
Ecclesiastes.
talking about.
It's in 25. A woman with many words.
Chapter 25, verse number 20.
That's it.
This is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 25, verse 20. It says,
Come on.
as climbing up a sandy way
As climbing up a sandy way
is to the foot of the aged, so is a wife full of words to a quiet man.
Read that again.
As the climbing up a sandy way is to the feet of the aged,
As climbing up sand, a sand dune hill to an old person. Read.
so is a wife full of words to a quiet man.
So is a wife full of words to a quiet man. That's the burden it puts on a man's heart. When a woman is actually invading his space continually with the mouth. It becomes a curse. See? But Paul began to correct that behavior. Read it again.
1 Peter chapter 3, verse number 5.
Now and this is what, brothers, this is what you have to understand. Right? Because we're going to get to the brothers too.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why women use the mouth is because they don't have the brute force like a man to make a man feel or see what their concerns are. They don't have the physical outward to influence physically. So the only weapon they feel they have to get their point across is the mouth. Okay? That's what it is. Sometimes we can stand up and our outward flexing sends a message automatically without us doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Our body language will actually speak to a degree in which it calms the room. Women don't have that. So when they feel that they're not being heard, the only means of communicating that on par with you doing that is us selling us with their mouths. Okay? To give you some understanding, to give you the wisdom of that. Where it feels like someone's punching you in the gut.
Mm.
She's hitting you all types of, she's hitting you in all the places that she know you're sensitive or insecure. It's almost like an uppercut. But that's wrong. It's wrong. So I wanted to give you the understanding of sometimes women feel that they don't have no other outlet but to use that tongue. But it becomes a curse, sisters, because eventually the Bible tells you how a man absorbs that. If you want to keep a man, the tongue must be tamed. It must be tempered. It must be tempered. It must be. Because I hear a lot. I see a lot of people struggling and saying, well, I need a good man and this, that, and the other. And the reality is the Bible says in this day, a man shall be like pure gold, which is rare. And the reality is women have to come to grips with the numbers. And the numbers bears out. There's less good men than there are good women. And that's just the reality of it. So if I understand that the pickings are rare, when I have a man, I must understand the spirit of how to keep a man. I'm his helpmeet. I don't have too many words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I work with this man. Because eventually you do all you can, and this is what happens. He gets all the best of you, and eventually y'all don't agree. He goes someplace else with all that you worked on him with. You help mature him and make him what he is, only to see another woman later benefiting from it. And all the potential you see now, all the work you put into this man, someone else is reaping it. And guess what? That will cause bitterness. You become bitter because that person wasn't working at the struggle stage to make him. You're seeing what you made in him for this woman. See? So I wanted to bring that out. You become bitter. Because you know all the stuff, him leaving his shoes around, he didn't know how to cook, he didn't do this. You struggled to make him what he was for some woman who did nothing to benefit from. Right? You have something, Mr. Lawyer?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me get the next one. Let's get Ephesians 5 and 22.
Ephesians 5, verse 22. It says, "Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord."
Now, I'm also going to go into the fact if a man has a woman who don't want to submit, who's worldly, who want to do, this is how I was when you met me, and you couldn't keep your eyes off of me, you couldn't keep your hands off of me, so why should I change? We're going to deal with that also. Let's read it. Ephesians 5 and 22. Read it.
"Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord."
Submit yourselves as if Christ was in your house. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you, I'm a man. Okay? And I'm giving you some details. Regardless if you think it's being appreciated or not, a man will always look back and understand, okay, through all his relationships that he's gone through. That one right there was a jewel.
Mm-hmm.
That one right there was a jewel. Okay? It says here, submit yourself, because some people think, and the world teaches us that submission is weak. Not for a woman. That's a woman's strength. That's a woman's strength. Okay? This is how a woman gets all of the man. Every part of him. Because why? She's so meek and timid and trusting that his guard stays down because you're so trusting. Everything belongs to you because you're no threat. Okay? But if there's arguments and there's things, if there's friction, there's certain parts of him become closed that you'll never find out. Because he feels that one day you're going to use certain information against him. Now, what made Delilah being wicked so deep is that she mastered the spirit of submissiveness. but she had a cunning mind to deceive.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how she was able to get Samson's secrets. She didn't come off haughty, the spirit of Jezebel or evil. No, she came off totally vulnerable to him in a trusting posture. Now, if a virtuous or righteous woman is this way, she becomes this man's strength. Instead of a woman who would use that vulnerable state to take the man. A woman's power is in submission. If you want everything from a man. Okay, that's how it works. Now, it's an interesting lesson today, right?
Sure.
Understanding. Go ahead, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Verse number 23. For the husband is the head of the wife.
For the husband is the head of the wife.
Even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body.
Come on.
Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything.
Let a wife be what?
So let the wives be to their own husbands in everything.
In what?
In everything.
In everything. In everything. See? And you have some people say, well, I can't do that. I can't give my all. I've been hurt before and I have to guard myself. But listen, if you're still dealing with the hurt of your past relationships, that means the person you're with is in a relationship with you and that person who scorned you.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're still bringing this man into, you should not have gotten into a relationship until you were totally over and forgiven the past. And that's where repentance comes in. That's where forgiveness comes in at. Because now this new person is not in just in a relationship with you. You're still the scorned person because you're taking that baggage and become guarded due to what that last person did to you. That means the last person is getting more from you than the man who deserves it. That last person got more. See? Finish reading.
Verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Come on.
That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word.
So he can sanctify it and cleanse it by the washing of water by the word. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. Now, Christ has given us an understanding on how to agree. If now me being subjected to Christ and was baptized, and though my sins were red as crimson, they're white as snow now. He's accepted me back. Now I can now love freely without the past baggage. See? He forgave me. A woman have to deal with that. Understanding what that washing is. That person that was scorned, that person that was hurt, that person don't trust. It's part of your past. It's part of that red crimson. It's part of the evil that came with the old woman. You are a new creature in Christ now. You can give freely and forgive so that you're happy going forward. To become that submissive wife. The past have no bearing on you now. The same way Christ has forgiven you, you have forgiven your past. And you're free to be that what you would call submissive woman. And that's why it talks about in the epistles that Christ presents us as a chaste virgin, that the teachers present the students and those in the church as chaste virgins to Christ. You're cleansed without the baggage. Finish reading.
Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church. And
Husband, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church. Read.
And gave himself for it.
And gave himself for it.
That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word.
That means stand continually in the word. Now, suppose you have a person with you in your home who don't respect the word, who could care less about that Bible. I'm going to deal with that too. Because really, eventually, that relationship is on borrowed time. It's only the one, the righteous or the virtuous, that have kept it going this long. In hopes of what the relationship could become. But I'll tell you this, some have to deal with the reality of what your relationship is. And know that if you're not on one accord in this time, the person that's not operating under the guidance and hedge of the Most High will become an enemy and will purge and destroy you as an agent for Satan. Guaranteed. I'm going to go there in a moment. Verse
number 27. That he might present it himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies.
As their own bodies. Read.
He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church.
Exactly. The two fleshes are one. It's just twain shall become one flesh. Satan would have you look at a woman and as she's separate. Oh, that's her. No, that's wife. Or have you look at him, oh, that's him. No, that's husband. These titles come with responsibility. And in here, two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. If you think there's problems between him and you, or man and woman, man, wait till you see the children they produce. Okay? They become dysfunctional agents used by Satan to destroy society. Going back to that original code, that agreement. If the husband and wife can't agree, then they can't agree with what to teach the children. Verse, Elder Lloyd.
Verse number 30. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones.
Come on.
For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh.
And they two shall be one flesh. You get some wisdom today, brothers and sisters, out of these scriptures. This is Christ directing us in a time of trouble. Understand where the lines are drawn and what side of the line you're living on. Let's get Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, in the Apocrypha. The 36th chapter in the 24th verse. We're bringing a reality check with this verse.
Ecclesiasticus 34, 36 and 24. He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession.
Read it again.
He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession.
He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession. Which means that woman, that wife belongs to you. It's a possession. Now, some people are like, I know possession. That you can't possess me. That sounds like control. A woman, listen to this clearly, because we're trying to break your programming. A woman was made to be controlled. Okay? You're a helpmeet to a man. He was given dominion. He's supposed to control possessions. Mm-hmm. Satan have taught you backward. What woman don't want to be led? It depends on what word you use. Control, being led. They're really one and the same. And then a woman would say, and I can understand it. I can understand a woman saying, well, a man has to deserve it. He has to deserve me following him. What do you mean? If you didn't think that he deserved it, why are you with him?
Exactly.
Whose fault is that? Why did you make an agreement to be with the man that you knew couldn't lead you? Whose fault is that? That was your choice. And now you're going to use that as an out?
Mm-hmm.
This is someone asked, did I marry the wrong? I can't make no decisions on who we giving you the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. We're showing you where the lines are, because if you have two people that's not in agreement, eventually when these lines are drawn, the enemy, which is a demon laying dormant somewhere, is going to blow like a keg right before you, and that will be your obstacle. That will be the barrier that will stop you from getting from point A to the kingdom. Because two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. And if you're sleeping with a demon you are in agreement with somewhere, that demon going to eventually show himself full board before it's over and destroy everything up under you. Okay? Read it again.
He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself,
A help like unto himself,
and a pillar of rest.
and a pillar of rest. Now, women have to ask themselves a question. Answer this honestly. If you're not with a man that you know can't lead you, why did you choose him? What was it for? Because that'll tell you a lot about yourself and how you make decisions. And by realizing that, you'll make better choices going forward, not just in that area, in other areas, because you'll use God first in the rest of your decisions. You'll use the code first with the rest of your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So this wasn't to blame the woman. We all had relationships and made mistakes or whatever the case is. Now the Most High is bringing a righteous perspective to get on the right side of the line now. That's all. Mm-hmm. This is not about blaming.
Right. This is vice versa. Same thing goes for brethren.
Yeah.
If you have a wife or a woman who don't want to be led, why did you choose in the first place?
Exactly. And you have to understand, Elder Lloyd, I'm glad you brought it out. You have to understand when it's being conveyed. Sometimes we ignore it because of the flesh,
mm-hmm.
mind you, just straight out.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's clear that you're not with a person that will actually listen to you, because they'll tip you off. They'll tell you straight off, I'm strong-minded. Well, strong-minded, okay. I interpret that as hard-headed. Is that what you're saying? Because if you're strong-minded is my hard-headedness, is what I think is hard-headedness, then there's no place this relationship can go further.
Mm.
You go over there with your strong mind and you go lead some what they call simp out there. Okay? Now,
some more here.
Yeah, let's go.
Verse 25. Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled.
Read it again.
Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled.
Where no hedge is, which is a protection. Read.
There the possession is spoiled.
The possession is spoiled. The whole house is toppled now. Because the man isn't leading. The whole house becomes a den of dysfunction because there's no head. Read.
And he that have no wife will wander up and down mourning.
And the man that's running around with no wife will be walking up and down crying because he didn't lead, he didn't control, he didn't watch what was going on in his house. When a woman say, you too controlling. Hey, listen, if you think I'm controlling, you need to check out my God. Okay? So what you're telling me is you're not going to allow me my innate duty to protect my home, to watch out for the enemy. That means you're going to be an adder in the way of me doing my job as protector. So I have the right to ask you on the phone when I come in, and if I come in and here it is, all of a sudden you get off the phone, all of a sudden, I got the right to ask, who you talking to? That I couldn't hear. Are you being controlling? You darn real I'm being controlling. Because the conversation was rolling for 10, 15 minutes before I walked through. Or you can have a girlfriend, I don't know. Is he controlling? She's talking to you saying, I don't. And that's the one without a man. Okay? Finish reading again.
Yes, sir. Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled, and he that have no wife shall wander up and down mourning.
Now you running up and down mourning because you allow Jezebel and Jezebel's cousin, along with Satan's daughter, up in your home, giving your woman or your wife advice. Because you didn't want to be the one in control, or you're like, listen, it's 50-50. It's no 50-50. It's 100% man and 100% woman. And the man trumps the woman. Okay? The same way Christ trumps the man and God trumps him. Okay? In the world, a woman who gets a man who's not in control, who doesn't lead, she's only with him long enough to find the man that will lead her. I know for a man, that's really hitting under the gut. A man's pride will not allow him to think of the woman he loved with someone else. And that's understandable, but that's what it's saying in Ecclesiastes. You don't put a hedge over your house, eventually the devil will come in and destroy everything. He'll take your wife. He'll take your children. And they'll be used as agents under his army. So either you're going to control, because either way, something is going to happen. You might as well be on top of it as a man and say, you know what? I'm in control here. I'm going to lead here. I'm going to show her she can trust me to lead. Or I'm going to lose anyway. So if your woman is running things in your home and she's taking care of everything, and you're the guy who just think that, you got it going on, and you just, you suave, and because you're you and the girls love you, that she's going to stick around, you're only there. These are the worldly women now. You're only there until she can find a man to take the pressure off of her and lead her. Okay? And that's the world. Finish reading, Other Lawyer.
26. Who will trust the thief well appointed, that skippeth from city to city? So who will believe a man that have no house?
Who would believe a man that have no house? And that's what goes on. You get women who will get men up into their house and give them a place to stay. And it never comes into your mind, why no one else want this guy? Mm-hmm. Why haven't he built anything for himself? Where is his children? Have I met his family? Why his family won't even let him sleep on the couch? Mm-hmm. And if that's so, how did he get up in my house? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Think about that. The Bible tell you about this man, where last week he was in Florida, and this week he's in Atlanta. Yeah, I'm at my cousin's house. He's got cousins everywhere. Mm-hmm. Every time you see him, he's sleeping on someone else's couch. Mm. And there's some woman somewhere thinking that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Here's my key. Here's the keys to my car. The key. And matter of fact, also, I'm going to have you watch my children at night also while I'm going to work. You are a godsend. He's molesting everything up in that house. You can't even have a dog running loose in that house. He's molesting everything. Two cannot walk together lest they be agreed. You have to set a code and a bar for yourself as a woman. Read it again.
Who will trust a thief well appointed that skippeth from city to city?
Skippeth from city to city.
So who will believe a man that have no house?
Who will believe a guy who have no house? No, this is the guy that has irons in the fire. Mm. They're always telling you what's coming, right. What they got working. Oh yeah, I'm working on my own company. It should come through any day now, and I got my business partners all the day. But when he go into his pockets, he's scratching his leg. And sisters be falling for this. He go into his pocket. There's a hole where he's scratching his leg in his pocket, telling you all the endeavors he have working. And our sisters go for it. Mm. The Bible breaks this down. This is the agreements our people fall into. Read it.
So who will believe a man that have no house, and lodgeth wheresoever the night taketh him?
And you looking at him saying he's always up there playing games all day and night. He's sitting there on his Xbox and he don't even watch movies. Listen, sisters are lower their bar where she just want less Xbox and more Netflix. Mm. That's the bar sisters have lowered themselves to. Mm. Where God don't have to obligate or lead anything. He need to just, I don't mind you getting high, but at least do Netflix with me.
Right.
Let alone navigating through what's about to happen. He's got to get it together. Let's read it.
Who will trust a thief well appointed that skippeth from city to city? So who will believe a man that have no house?
Who would believe a man who have no house?
And lodgeth wheresoever the night taketh him.
And he sleep anywhere the night taketh him. He's always on someone else's couch or at someone else's house. Who can trust this person? Automatically, when you do the research, these are your molesters that go around molesting children. And that's why they go from state to state, because they know they want it someplace else. Mm-hmm. And you got some sisters looking at him as if Christ himself presented himself to this woman. Mm. Like, yo, oh yeah, I'm from North Kakalaki. I'm like, what you doing in Philly? I got family here. You have a car? No, I use the train. Mm. Oh, okay. Where do you live? I'm at my cousin's house. But I tell you what, he got it going on Instagram and Facebook. You can only see all the good of this person. Taking pictures in front of other people's cars, sleeping on other people's couches. And now sisters have brought forth a demon in their home. And now I'm going to blame the man saying there's no good men. No, there are good men. They probably walk by the same time you let this dude in on your couch. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, I don't want to digress into that because there's more I want to cover. Matthew 10 and 34. Let's read it. Matthew 10 and 34. Read it.
Sure. St. Matthew chapter 10, verse number 34.
Here we go now. Now, before we go there,
Mm-hmm.
let's get the one where it talks about for the incontinencies real quick.
Mm-hmm.
If a man have an unbelieving wife and a wife have an unbelieving husband.
Mm-hmm. It says here, 1 Corinthians 7 and 1.
Okay, I'm reading the Bible, I believe, but here it is. I made probably a mistake in getting with someone based on my flesh, aligning myself with someone in the world, but I'm trying to bring this person around. I'm praying that the Most High would soften their heart to receive the word and understand, and sometimes that happens. But sometimes, most times, it doesn't. But either way, you may ask, well, what do I do under these particular circumstances? Right? Listen to this.
1 Corinthians 7 and 1.
Read it.
Now concerning things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman.
It's good for a man not to touch a woman.
Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband.
Exactly. Let every man have his own wife. That's one wife. And every woman have her own husband. See? But it says it's better that a man touch not a woman. Now, it's not saying it's wrong to be with a woman. It's saying that you should have that connection with the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we tend to try to fill a void that only the Most High can fill with a woman or a relationship with someone we met, when we didn't give ourselves enough time with the Most High to discern good and evil, to make the right choices when it comes to a relationship, knowing the responsibility that comes with it. I'm the bearer of the code. Any woman under me must be the helpmeet so that I can uphold this code that was given to my forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And our children must continue the legacy. So it's better that I don't have anyone at all if I'm going to get in a relationship that don't allow me to do what? Bring forth my nation. And that's what he means. It's better off that a man touch not a woman. Because what woman are you choosing to be with? You'd be better off being with the Most High like Adam was until the Most High bring forth your helpmeet. See? Come on.
Verse 3. Let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence.
Do benevolence.
And likewise also the wife unto the husband.
And do benevolence means the flesh. Not holding relations one from another. Using that over a person. And women are good for that. Women are good for that. If you don't get your way, then you're not going to actually do your marital duties. It's wrong. And a man shouldn't do that either. Mm-hmm. That's due benevolence. Or you'll do it for what? For gain. And guess what? You don't want to fall under that category where it's about getting something for it. Okay, that's not the agreement. Okay, finish reading.
It says, verse 4, the wife have not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband have not power of his own body, but the wife.
Come on.
Defraud ye not one another, except it be with consent for a time.
When it says defraud not one another, because sometimes outside of that, there's what? There's friction that's leading to the fact that, who want to actually be in a relationship or show love and companionship with a person they're not compatible with, they're fighting against. So usually when that thing happens where it's less relations, it's because there's an issue, one against the other. So now Paul is bringing some counsel in between that. If there's some friction going on, find a time in which y'all can actually bring things together, discuss it, put it past us. Right? Read.
Defraud ye not of one another, except it be with consent for a time.
Come on.
That you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer.
So if there's a conflict between the two, they both agree to give themselves over into fasting and praying. Now, here's the deal. When you look at this, it goes into the unbelieving and believing as we read.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a person who don't believe, and in their mind they're already out of the relationship, but they're still there for the sake of convenience because the bills are being paid or whatever the case is. During that separation time, the person who's under the flesh or under Satan will seize an opportunity to exercise that freedom or that liberty. And that usually presents itself in the world. I'm going to give you that as an example so you can understand it, of a person who's constantly emphasizing as a solution, we need space. The person who says we need space already have an idea on what they're going to do with that space. Okay, but there's an answer for that. Now, the righteous, or the one that's looking to deal with the prayer and come together, usually is the most naive of the two, and hope that everything, and is trying to stop the separation with everything in them, because in their heart, they know this person's heart is someplace else. If you're down with the Most High, you have to let it go. You have to let it be. Let that time happen. And if that person is going to sin, let them do it to save you the heartache down the line. This way, the Most High can bring you someone you deserve, a helpmeet that will not struggle against you while there's still time. Are you following here? Usually the naive one is the one saying, no, let's talk it out. Let's do this. Nah. You know what this person wants to do. Let him do it. Remember Lot's wife. It's a move they'll regret. You know it. But the spirit in them won't allow them to accept their fate. Listen to what we're showing you here. Let them go. If they don't deal with their part of the agreement in fasting and praying and go out and let Satan come in from their incontinencies, guess what? You're not under bondage in such cases. You are free. See? Finish reading.
Verse number 6. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment.
Come on.
For I would not that all men were for I would that all men were even as myself, but every man have his proper gift of God.
Come on.
One after this manner and another after that.
One after this manner and another after that.
I say therefore to the unmarried and widows, it is good for them if they abide even as I.
See that? He's telling the sisters now. It's better if you abide even as Paul. Paul wasn't married. Be content with being alone, developing that relationship with the Most High so that if it does happen, you're making the right choice. It's not out of fleshly needs. It's not out of anything outside of the Most High, and you'll know it. Because what will happen is you'll make a choice, and you're living the choice now, and now you're looking at the person a month later, a year later, 3 years later, that's saying, you know what? That's the person that someone else is about to receive. That's the person that if I would have been patient enough would have been mine. See? So he says, I would rather you be like me. Learn how to fulfill your spirit with the Most High. And fill in all those areas that you feel a man should have with the Most High. Learn how to do that and be okay, because 9 times out of 10, especially a woman that's taking care of everything anyway, you're in a better case free than bringing someone else in strictly for your fleshly needs. And now the right man the Most High have for you walks right by. Or you meet him and know it's too late. Are you following me here? Now listen.
Yes, sir. Verse number 10. And unto the married I command you, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband.
Let not the wife depart from her husband. So, yes, you may have a God that isn't in the truth, but don't depart from him. That means don't leave them all together. But then there's a conflict, and we're going to go into that. That conflict, if Satan will come in from his incontinencies, if now y'all must separate for a time and this person go out and do something wrong, sin against your relationship, either none of you are in bonds. The contract, the agreement has been breached. Read.
Let me jump back to that verse. Verse 5. Defraud ye not one another, except it be with consent for a time.
Consent for a time.
That ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer.
Fasting and prayer.
And come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency.
And come together again, that Satan tempt ye not for your incontinencies. Because that's going to be the space where the person who wanted space exercise their sin and break the agreement. And guess what? Even though it hurts, you must allow that to go, because you don't want that in your life with what's about to happen. These are the demons the Most High is going to, that Satan is going to use against us in this time of trouble. It's those that have these demons in them, their flesh, and always been fighting against the spirit of the truth. That's going to become physical in a minute. See? Finish where you are, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Jumping back down to verse number 11.
Yes.
But and if she depart, let her remain unmarried.
If she depart, let her remain unmarried.
Or be reconciled to her husband.
Or let her be reconciled to her husband. So if you're going to depart during that time, or have some, y'all can agree to be apart. But then once you both have fasted and prayed and came to a resolution, which, you know, that's a possibility that we all hope happens. You can be reconciled, and now the relationship was better than it was before. Y'all didn't use that space to sin. Y'all used that space to reflect on how important one is to the other, how much that person meant to you, and what your life would be without them. You had a chance to reflect on that and make a decision. Listen, let's tough this out. So that's the possibility we all hope for. See? Because that's a possibility. I've heard those stories where it could go either way, and they did it righteously and didn't let another person come in, and the relationship became stronger. Read.
But if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband, and let not the husband put away his wife.
And let not the husband put away his wife. Read.
But to the rest speak I, not the Lord.
Come on.
If any brother hath a wife that believeth not.
So if a brother is dealing with a sister that believe not, that means you don't want to accept what you're teaching. Now know that if you are dealing with the truth, you're dealing with, especially if she's under Christianity or Islam or one of those pagan religions, there's a dormant demon there, which the Gentiles sacrifice to. Know it's there. It haven't reared its head yet, But it's still there. Read.
But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him.
But yet she still does all the things you need and she love you and care for you. Read.
Let him not put her away.
Don't put her away based on her difference in beliefs. Don't put her away for that. You're giving her a chance, an opportunity through your actions, through you serving the Most High, and through that example, she's now seeing the benefits of serving that God. She's not going to do it any other way. She's not going to do it through the scriptures you convincing her with. She's going to do it through how you treat her according to that God, how you treat your children according to that God. That's what's going to turn her around. To say, you know what? Is there a scripture that actually, says what you're doing right now? Because I like the new you. I like what you're doing here. Is that in the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be like, listen, I was trying to tell you. It's the change that's going to open the doors for her to want to understand the God of Israel. It's your actions. And guess what? It's counterwise if you use the word deceitfully. If they see someone on the street with the Bible cursing women out and calling them all different types of names, it works in the contrary now. If that Bible or that religion gives them the full board and right to do what I'm feeling right now, and I know that's not of the Spirit, I don't want that God, and you can take that spirit someplace else. So it's not the words in specific that turns women off. It's the actions that turns women off to the word. I'm not receiving anything from a devil, from a demon. See? So that if you want your wife to believe, you want to read the scriptures with me and you'll understand. It doesn't work like that. She's seeing your actions. She's seeing something amiss in your actions. It's your actions which will lead her, and she'll be shaking you and asking you at different times of night, can you go over this with me?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be your actions that turn her to the word, not the other way around. You're not going to have the word to put her under your obedience. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. It's your actions. Okay? Come on, finish reading.
Verse number 14. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified, it says, verse number 13, Salakia, and the woman which hath an husband that believeth not.
Now you have a woman who believe not. Right? Read.
And the woman which hath an husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him.
If he want to be with you, and he's willing, and you got a lot of men who take the lead role, who exemplifies all the examples of righteous man, but he just don't believe the Bible and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, don't force that on him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't force it on him. Now, if this unbeliever is one of the guys going house to house, sleeping on people's couches, like the Bible says, now there's a different set of rules for him. Okay, and I know your ears are perking up to ask, what can I do in this situation, right? Well, the rules for him, since he's been going all around the place and having established himself, it's the scripture that says, well, let's separate for a time that Satan not come in for your incontinencies. It's like this. We're gonna make a plan that will have you be that head the Bible says you're supposed to be. And we're going to set a time for that. Okay? We're going to fast and pray, and I'm going to work towards you becoming that man to lead me. But we're going to put a time on this. Because we don't have no time for you to just come around under martial law. When I need a real man to step up. Okay. We're going to put a time on this. Okay? Hey, that's what you have to do. That separating comes with an agreement. Like, listen, when you are that man that can lead me, that's fine. But I'm a woman. I can't lead you and my children too. It can't happen like this. You have to step up. Finish reading.
Verse number 14.
Yeah.
For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife,
Come on.
and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband.
Come on.
Else were your children unclean,
Else were your children unclean,
but now are they holy.
because the prayer of the righteous covers the house. But that's if you're dealing with two good people. Okay? You may have a guy that's good. He's a Christian. He don't want to see it. He's been in the church all that long and all that. Let him do what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's still providing and doing, at least he's following some of the codes of the Bible and have some fear of God and follow Christ. Don't force him. Okay? Don't force him. He's still ticking all the boxes. Somebody come into your house, they're going to get dragged out. Okay? That's a man. Somebody try to sell you or your children, they have to go through him first.
Right.
If you need a provider, he's doing the right thing. He's providing for his home. He's loving his wife. He's loving his children. He just don't see it like you see it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Let him do what he's doing. Okay? And the Christ is still covering you all. Right? Now, I have one more scripture before I...
Matthew 10.
Yeah, let's go to Matthew 10:34.
Say Matthew chapter 10, verse number 34.
Yes, let's read it. And we have to understand where the lines are drawn. Why? Because the enemy has believe it or not, this battle isn't with flesh and blood. The enemy now is taking all of those who are under the darkness of the flesh, who don't understand and who are confused. These are going to be used as agents against the righteous at the very end. It doesn't matter how close they are to you. Be it another nation, be it in your home, in your family, be it your husband or wife or your children. This is where Satan is going to be able to use the dark forces to control the wicked, the unbelievers, the confused. And they're going to be aligned in Satan's army against us, against you. See? Let's read it. Let's go to Matthew 10:34 through 39.
St. Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. Think not that I'm come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword.
Understand, when you receive this truth, Christ gives you a sword. You're changing. Everyone else see it. You can't see it, but there's a metamorphosis going on. You're changing. It's Christ dividing you from the world for his kingdom. You can't see it, but everyone around you is taking notice to a change. You're not the same person they grew up with. They don't know the nature of this person because our God wasn't taught in that house. Our God wasn't at your family functions. So you're coming as a new person to them with these new set of rules. That's Christ slowly separating you. They can see it, and guess what? You better see it. Because they're viewing that separation entirely different. Enemy. Okay? Let me tell you, when people are subjected to the flesh and see someone looking to do better, they become envious. They become jealous. They won't say anything, but that's Satan using that part of the flesh because you're changing. They're still the people you grew up with. that have the tendency to do all the things you know they've done against you. They didn't do it against you because you were their friend. You were their family member. But now you belong to someone else. So all the stuff you thought that was aimed towards other people they didn't know or people they didn't care about, it's on you now. And now all that vitriol and hatred and jealousy, you know some of what our family can do. You become the aim of their vitriol now. Let's read it.
Verse 35. For I am not come to set verse 35. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foe shall be they of his own household.
And a man's foe shall be they of his own household. Check that out. Because the enemy are controlling. They didn't make the choices you made. So now they become your foes. And because we are naive and unloving Christ, I wonder how you listen. I'm going to tell you right now, you have to view them, understand how they're viewing you outside of your naivety. Embrace yourself. Okay. Read.
37. He that loveth father or mother more than me.
And why do you say you love father and mother more than me? I've changed you. Your father and mother still want the world. They still want Christmas. They still want Easter. They still want the devil. They still want sin. So now, since you received Christ, you become an enemy to them. Because why? They serve Satan. Okay? Now they've come to the reality. And they're more instant in judgment than we are. Well, listen, don't invite him. I don't want him at our gatherings. Let me tell you, the people of the world draw a line. You're not going to be a Debbie Downer, at my Christmas party. They'll draw the line, and we still naive, not realizing that this is a war. They'll draw a line, but we still, I wonder how I can get my family to understand. And they done drew a line already, and now you're stepping over the line. To them, you don't believe. Everyone in the family know you don't believe, but you're still coming to the party. What do you want from us? You want to go to blows? Because that's how they're viewing it. The world can make a line. It's just that the righteous are so naive and thinking you can influence them, not realizing what Christ said. Christ also said you can't cast your pearls before swine, lest you be rent under feet. You try to force this on somebody in the time of the end, you're going to get yourself totally dealt with by the spirits that have possessed these people. You think it's just your family living there. And you have to realize, I would say the height or the ceiling that you have in being able to influence them. Everyone isn't teachers. So just because you know something doesn't mean you can articulate it to a degree in which they could receive it. Because you have to be able to go through bone and marrow, cast out the spirit, find the person, and teach the person. After contending with the demons first. So some of us do more damage than good thinking you're helping your family. When sometimes leaving them alone is usually the best choice initially. Still having an amicable relationship with them. Still caring for them. But knowing that there's still spirits laying dormant there. Uncleansed. Okay? Finish reading.
He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me.
Come on.
And he that loveth son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me.
Come on.
And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it.
If you find your life in Christ, and this is what a lot of people don't want to accept, you will lose the life of this world. Everything. You will lose everything. I had to deal with none of my family accepting what I was seeing. I had to deal with being rejected by my own family. I left everything, everybody, to serve the living God and to set up churches and to know that one day we're going to have to be going, into the wilderness and other areas and never look back at Babylon again. But the Most High had enough grace to bring it around full circle where it's through my actions, my family understand that this is for real. It's not a hobby for me. I'm not taking up church. See? And that's what's bringing a lot of them around. And going back and looking at those old videos that they hated before. Because they realize, listen, I will choose Christ over you any day of the week. Okay? I love you, but I love him more. And I'm not going to let no dormant demon be an adder in the way for me finishing my work Christ have entrusted in me. That's it. Yeah, I love you. But I know what you can do. I've seen you act in the flesh. And I know that eventually Satan could turn that around against me. I'm going to tell you, when they start firing that 5G up and people sick and all that, people getting running around with masks and sweating and all that, you're going to see people running around with knives, just stabbing people. Just going out of their minds. Like, oh, that ain't Cousin Betty, is it? That's how it's going to be. It's going to be the zombie apocalypse. And and what you're not going to realize, it was a demon that was always lying dormant during Sunday service. You got something to tell me?
Oh, no.
Sooner or later, those demons, everything that's in them that they didn't fix are going to come to the surface. There's going to be monsters running around here that you thought was mommy, daddy, cousin. Okay? Read it again.
And he that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it.
If you lose your life for Christ's sake, you shall find it. See, when you turn your life to Christ, be baptized for the remission of sins, and receive the gift of the Holy Spirit and begin to study, what happens? You receive a gift of discernment to the degree in which you begin to learn, and you will be able to discern good from evil. You'll know what's right from wrong according to that code we were going into. And you begin to apply that to every facet of your life. And check it out. While you are applying it to every facet, guess what you are applying? A hedge. There's a hedge now through your application over you, over your wife, over your children. To the degree in which all your thoughts become clear and you're guided by the Holy Spirit in your choices. But you must make a full agreement with the Almighty and stand with it. And don't let your sensual nature of the flesh trump the choices. I'm going to tell you right now, don't let the flesh, folks, begin to drown out that spirit that would guide you through this. And all the people you see out there rioting and doing all that right now, they're being led totally through their flesh. They can be triggered at any time. CNN can, CNN can have a riot anytime they want.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Because that was a plan right after COVID so that there will be no rest in the country. This was the plan. This was the plan. So I'm like, you know what? While they dealing with all the smoke and mirrors and all that, oh my God, this is black and white. We shall overcome. Black Lives Matter. I'm like, listen, we have to let our brothers and sisters know where the line is drawn. Because Satan is stirring up all of his soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure those soldiers aren't amongst our church. We have to make sure Satan's soldiers aren't in our families. Because that's a clear indicator. When I see if some of my family members out there acting a fool, I'm like, okay, I know who I'm going to be, how I'm not going to be around when it comes down. You're not going to be around me when it happens if this is how you react once provoked. You'll get everyone killed.
Mm-hmm.
You got a bunch of super simpletons be totally being triggered under this. And it's not to be insensitive to what happened with the brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it's being used.
Right.
More of us are going to die through our reaction to this of our people. And these are the people who don't have no control over their spirits that they're going to trigger against. If they can trigger them to be out there like that, they can trigger them against you. Okay? Let's go train up a child.
Proverbs 22, verse 6.
Proverbs 22 and 6. Read it.
Train up a child in the way that he should go.
Train up a child with the righteous code. We're going to call this crisis code. Laws, statutes, commandments of the Almighty. And an agreement we made with God. Teaching that to our families, choosing a wife who would help meet that requirement as a head over my household.
Mm-hmm.
This is my duty to my nation and my children. To protect my children from these nations who serve lesser gods. Okay? Read.
Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
And when he is old, he shall not depart from it. Okay? Two can't walk together lest they be agreed. Our families must be one as Christ, the Most High, Ahia, Christ, and the Holy Spirit are one. That's the hedge. That's the protection. Last but not least, look at your screen. What do we see in here? What you have on your screen is an Army Operation Forces for Unconventional Warfare, September 2008. Okay? That's what you see on your screen there. This is official. For those who want to know what's going on right now in Minnesota and in other areas of the country with riots and all of that happening. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because that's more so the diversion. The real plan was to do what? Move the army in place that's been here since COVID began.
Exactly.
All the empty hotels in major cities were housing military since January, folks. Specifically, it went around March. They would come in literally around January on certain floors. But when March the 20th happened, around at that time, a lot of these hotels that were totally commandeered by government had military already in it, including foreign military. So now we're looking at the trigger that would lead to them now coming from out of the shadows of these hotels and other places for the next phase of COVID. It have nothing to do with someone getting killed or any of that. in this particular thing right here, it breaks down the engagements of war. So I'm just going to give you all some insight of what we're dealing with here. I had a piece of paper here. I read
a chart right there with the pen on it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. All right. Real quick. Army operations, Special Operations Forces for Unconventional Warfare. Right? Let's get it again. And I'm going straight to irregular warfare. Let's go straight to irregular warfare. All right. Now, matter of fact, let's go to conventional warfare first. Conventional. There's a whole manifesto. I'm going to go over it more so in the academy tomorrow, but I thought I would just give y'all a look at these official documents that I have here. Let's go straight to conventional warfare. One moment. Conventional warfare. Elder Lawyer, can you read what's in italics there?
Yes, sir. It says a form of warfare between states that employs direct military confrontation to defeat an adversary's armed forces.
To defeat an adversary's armed forces. Read.
Destroy an adversary's war-making capacity.
Destroy an adversary's war-making capacity.
Or seize or retain territory in order to force a change in an adversary's government or policies.
To change the policies. Read.
The focus of conventional military operations is normally an adversary's armed forces with the objective of influencing the adversary's government. It generally assumes that the indigenous populations within the operational area are non-belligerents and will accept whatever political outcome the belligerent governments impose, arbitrate, or negotiate. A fundamental military objective in conventional military operations is to minimize civilian interference in those operations.
Fundamental military objectives in conventional military operations is to minimize civilian interferences into those operations. This is real warfare we're talking about here, folks, outside of physical bullets flying. What government's true objectives are through military. Now, let's now go to irregular warfare under the same manifesto. Elder Lawyer, I need you to read the bullet points of irregular warfare. Here it is. Irregular warfare. IW. This is the warfare we're under right now. Read it.
It says here, insurgency.
Insurgency.
Cohen,
which is COINTELPRO.
UW
is unconventional warfare, which we're under right now.
Terrorism.
Terrorism is a form of warfare used through the government, folks. Read.
CT, FID, Stability, Security, Transition, and Reconstruction Operations.
They use this to reconstruct a country. That's warfare. What else?
Strategic Communications.
Strategic Communications.
PSYOP.
PSYOP, like COVID-19 is. And now, believe it or not, this particular event in which they done killed this brother have now been taken over as a PSYOP operation, in which they can use people with masks to go through and burn certain cities to bring in martial law to continue the COVID-19, because they knew that people would begin to understand it was a PSYOP the whole time. People are not believing the coronavirus anymore. So now they needed another event to bring forth a lockdown on the country, to substantiate the martial law that began in March. Read on.
Civil military operations.
Civil military operations.
Information operations.
Information operations.
Intelligence and counterintelligence activities.
Intelligence and counterintelligence activities.
transitional criminal activities, including
Hold up. They have transitional criminal activities in an army's manifesto for warfare. Like what?
including narco trafficking.
Narco trafficking is warfare controlled through government. Read.
Illicit arms dealing.
Illicit arms dealing is under the government. It's a form of warfare. Read.
And illegal financial transactions that support or sustain irregular warfare.
Exactly. Because they take the money from the drugs to fuel, you got it, irregular warfare, to keep us down. That's what the contraband was about with Oliver North and all that. How they were using the drugs of the crack game to fund a war over in South America. Read on.
Law enforcement activities focused on countering irregular adversaries.
Exactly. So I wanted to give y'all that in a nutshell, to just give y'all some insight to what we'll be going into tomorrow within the Academy during the Academy News. Don't fall for it. This whole thing is a psyop, and they're using our people. They're using this trigger to get the numbers needed for them to call in martial law. That's all this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Know where the line is drawn. Don't cross that line and go over out there with those people. The news and all that is going to incinerate you. You're going to hear more sorrowful stories, and it's going to seem like they care about what's going on with black people and the fact that something happened. And guess what? Let me tell you, folks, they could have easily given this man first-degree murder.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have meant nothing to him, because they can give him first-degree murder, lock him up, and then let everyone believe justice was done, and then let him out the back door, just like they did Epstein. Just like they did that other Jewish guy that's not locked up right now. What's his name? The movie maker.
Not Weinstein. What's the guy? Was it
Weinstein?
Yeah.
Y'all don't know Weinstein. The day before COVID got big, they released him due to medical issues. And you haven't heard from him again. From him again. They could have easily, to give justice and keep this thing calm, they could have just said, "Listen, we're charging them with first-degree murder," knowing that even after the trial, they could just walk him back out of the back door and no one would ever know it happened. But they gave him the lesser charge on purpose for a public psyop, knowing the reaction of the people who were being led through the flesh and through their emotions. They could have easily did that. So don't fall for it, folks. They knew exactly what would trigger our people. First of all, they're trying to keep us down by saying all of the inner city areas are still under red under Corona. Mm-hmm. Now you compound it with our people going out, marching. That's what they just need us in numbers so that now they can have their unmarked military, foreign troops and others with masks, bust windows with cameras rolling, set police vans and cars on fire. That's nothing. Hollywood can produce all that for them. You know how many movies you've seen with police cars burning up?
Mm-hmm.
How many movies you've seen with police cars burning up, folks? But they need the optics with our people going out saying, "Can't take it no more." So now they can use their psyop military to now throw gasoline on the proverbial fire. That's where we are. You can go out there if you want. We told those other brothers, we said it years ago, not to be out there, and they was out there, and now look what happened. Hey, go out there if you want, or stay under the hedge and get directed by the Almighty. Okay? Don't forget, straight and narrow is Christ's path, his way. And broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. You want to know where the destruction is? Where the masses gather. With that, wag the dog. Absolutely. With that, we're going to say shalom. Stay in agreement with the Most High. Two can't walk together lest they be agreed, and that first starts with our walk with the Almighty. Stay prayed up, sin not. We're going into tomorrow. You got it. The truth of hell.
Mm-hmm.
Does hell exist? More serious, in-depth information on the underworld, hell, its existence, and its purpose. The darkness of hell will be broken down tomorrow. The reality of whether or not it exists, what happens to souls once they leave this plane. We'll be talking about that tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Elder Lawyer, Thawada.
Thank you.
It's been a blessed Sabbath. Stay away from the crowds. Love your family. Stay prayed up. Sin not. We will soon see Zion. Shalom. I'm Elder Rick Shaw of the Gathered of Christ Church. And I know you brothers and sisters are waiting for this academy tomorrow. It's going to be off the chains.
Yes, sir.
With that, stay strong.
The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out here anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.